This screencast covers a question from the ITC 2014 June paper number 3. The paper is available on the CICA website. The intention for this screencast is to look at exam technique during reading time. Please consider and concentrate on how much and what I am highlighting and writing down. Please remember that you can pause, rewind, and play this video at any time. Let's have a look at the question. You are an audit trainee at SA Auditors Inc., also known as SI, a medium-sized firm of registered auditors. Early in 2013, SI acquired and implemented new sophisticated auditing software, Elec Audit IT, on which you have been trained, to ensure that SI delivers on audits of high quality. All you need to know about from this sentence is that there will be some form of computer auditing in this question. You are a member of the team assigned to the auditor of South Africa Green Energy Limited, also known as SAGE, a dominant player in the wind energy industry in South Africa, for the year ended 31st of December 2013. Mr. Victor Shabangu is the Senior Audit Manager, Mr. Kobus Loop is the Engagement Director, and Mr. Alvain Light is the Engagement Quality Control Reviewer. SAGE became a client of SI for the first time early in 2013. What we need to know here, it's a first-time audit. Okay. And the company is in the wind energy industry. Mr. Shabango recently forwarded the following to you. The first document, an email that Mr. Light sent to Mr. Loop. If we just remind ourselves quickly, Mr. Light is the Engagement Quality Control Reviewer. Mr. Loop is the Engagement Director. The second document that has been sent to you, an electronic work paper related to the auditor's understanding of SAGE, and the third document, an article relating to SAGE, which was published in the Times on Sunday on the 1st of December 2013. These three documents are attached below. The first one, the email that was sent from the EQCR partner, the Engagement Quality Control Review partner, to the Engagement Director. If we have a read through it, Dear Kobus, well done on winning SAGE's audit committee over and getting them to appoint SI as the new registered auditor for the company's 2013 financial statements. What you should be picking up from this is that SAGE's audit committee has appointed the auditor. You should know that the shareholders are responsible for directing the auditor. He goes on to say that this is a massive contract. And we could sure do with the extra revenue, specifically after SI lost the audit of Eskom. Okay. What you need to pick up here is that the company is heavily reliant, the audit firm is heavily reliant on this new client. They need the extra revenue. They've recently lost the audit of Eskom. Now remember, we found out in the previous page that our new client is in the wind energy industry. We know Eskom, definitely in the energy industry. Okay. We also find out that the engagement partner was the engagement partner for Eskom for the past 4 years. So he has quite a lot of experience in this industry. The EQCR partner goes on to say that with hindsight, it is a pity that SI had let go of so many staff after losing the Eskom audit. We sure could use them now. What you should be picking up from here is that they've lost a lot of their staff. They've let them go. They may not have the resources to audit this new client. This contract will give our firm's revenue a nice boost despite the lower than usual audit fee that you have offered to SAGE. I must compliment you on taking the initiative to ensure that our quote is so competitive. It is certainly going to pay off in the future. Okay. Now you know in terms of the CPC, the client is supposed to charge a fee in line with the work performed, and an audit fee that is too low can give rise to a self-interest threat. So you may want to make a note in the column that this could be a self-interest threat. Okay. The next paragraph, I know you are currently under tremendous pressure with your large client portfolio, so don't worry too much about getting the engagement letter issued to Sage and signed. It's just a formality that can be attended to later. I know Mike Morrow, who is the CEO of Sage, very well, and I will speak to him regarding this. He's married to my wife's sister. Okay. So what you need to find out from this paragraph, if somebody is under tremendous pressure, they may not have the time and energy to deal with this client. Okay? This means that the director might not be able to give this client the right amount of attention and do all of the audit work that is necessary. In terms of the engagement letter, he says don't worry about it. We know that that's a problem because it's a requirement in terms of ISO 210 to have an engagement letter. The fact that the EQCR knows the CEO very well is a familiarity threat. Okay, please excuse my handwriting. It's very difficult to write on the screen. If we have a look at the next paragraph, our firm's CEO told me that SAI's executive committee members, SAI Exco, were not impressed with the fact that Eskom had fired us, especially after we had cut our costs so drastically to meet their budget for audit fees. Apparently, Eskom's CEO hinted in the press that the entity changed auditors due to dissatisfaction with the professional services provided by their outgoing auditors. I think he is simply ungrateful. They could have used our firm's deep understanding of the energy industry to help Eskom in a significant way with their business strategies and growing their renewable industry business. Okay. The fact that Eskom has hinted that they were unhappy with the professional services performed by the auditor could be simply ungrateful. It could be an indication that the auditor did not comply with all of the ISOs or acted unprofessionally in some way. Okay. The fact that they could have used that, or the fact that the EQCR says that they could have used our firm's deep understanding of the industry hints that there may have been an independence issue here. If we have a look at the next paragraph, luckily you can now use your knowledge of Eskom's planned business strategies and of the energy industry to help Sage obtain a competitive advantage. This is definitely a hint that confidentiality might not be important. At the same time, you will be able to reduce audit hours as you will know where to scratch and where to turn a blind eye. This is definitely a hint that the ISOs may not be complied with completely and properly if the auditor is doing a half job. In the process, you'll be able to change the SAI Exco's perception of your value to the firm. Remember that SAI Exco is really emphasizing that we have to cut costs to increase our firm's profits. Also remember that the SAI Exco hinted that lucrative bonuses will be paid to all directors of the firm based on efficiencies in audit time and an increase in the firm's profit. The last half of this paragraph indicates to us that the director is under a lot of pressure to cut costs. He might do this by not performing the audit in terms of the ISOs, by not providing enough resources, by cutting corners. Okay? The lucrative bonus is a self-interest threat to him to cut corners and not provide an audit in terms of the ISOs. If we have a look at the rest of the email, regards Alvain, who is the Quality Assurance Director of SA Auditors Inc. Their slogan here at the bottom, we guarantee success in everything we do at the best prices. This again just emphasizes the nature of this audit firm. They're willing to cut costs, they're willing to do everything for the best prices. They're not looking at the quality of the audit. Also, saying that we guarantee success is a misleading statement, okay, and not in terms of the CPC. If we have a look at the next document, it's an electronic work paper, understanding the entity and its environment. The work paper format is there, the heading here, the name of the client, the year end, who prepared the work paper, who reviewed it, the dates, and a work paper reference number. We don't need to spend too much time on that. Let's have a look at the background information or company vision. Sage is a South African incorporated company which is listed on the JSE. So we know from here it is listed. Okay. That is a risk because it has to comply with all sorts of listing requirements. It may provide incentive for management to manipulate the financial statements to comply with the JSE listing requirements. Sage specializes in the generation of electricity from renewable sources, which is then sold to South African customers. Sage's vision is to position itself as a world-leading renewable energy supplier by the end of 2020, with a South African market share of 85% of the renewable energy supply. That doesn't have a lot of impact for us as auditors. That relates more to the strategy of this company. Sage is a leader in the area of research and development. Okay? Research and development, complex accounting, it's a risk of renewable energy sources in South Africa. Renewable energy generation is still underdeveloped in South Africa due to the huge research and construction costs that have to be incurred and the possible adverse effects wind farms could have on bird life. Again, guys, these are more business risks. This is more strategy information. Sage is the only company in South Africa that has a fully operational wind farm situated in Klipheerville. Sage generates 95% of the wind-powered electricity in South Africa at this wind farm. This amounts to 1,000 megawatts of electricity per year. The industry in which Sage operates is highly competitive and heavily regulated. Again, guys, sorry, that's the fact that they are highly competitive and heavily regulated industry does have some risk implications for us as auditors. The directors have acknowledged that they do not have in-depth knowledge of the legislation that applies to that industry. That's an additional risk for the auditors. Wind farms utilize wind power to produce electricity. Numerous wind turbines are spread over a large area of land. The turbine blades are turned by the wind, which then turns an electrical generator, generating electricity. The minimum wind speed needed to generate electricity is 16 kilometers per hour. Globally, market participants in the energy sector are experiencing significant pressure to decrease their carbon footprint and to participate in the research and development of alternative sources of energy. Okay, guys, all of that again, mostly relating to strategy and risk management, not hugely important for auditing. Governance, the ownership, the issued share capital of Sage is held as follows: 51% by UK Green Energy PLC, also known as UGE, which is a company that is listed and incorporated in the United Kingdom. 51%, so they are the major shareholders. 15% is held by SA Government SOC Limited, also known as SAG, which is a state-owned company incorporated in South Africa. Guys, just as an aside, state-owned company, that's what SOC stands for. Okay. 10% is held by the SA Green Trust, a community trust registered in South Africa. And 24% by South African Renewable Green Energy Pty Limited, also known as SARG, a consortium of experts dedicated to providing clean, renewable energy to the people of South Africa. If we have a look at the members of the board of directors, we have a Mr. Mike Moller. He is the CEO and the chairperson of the board. Immediately you should see that that is a King 2 issue. This King 3 recommends that the CEO and the chairperson are two separate people. The next member of the board is Ms. Louise Naidu, who is the company secretary. You should immediately pick up the company secretary should not be a director on the board. Mr. Gerard Butler, who is the CFO, that seems perfectly fine for the moment, and Mr. Frick Earloff, who is the Human Resource Director. Again, no problem with him at the moment. Dr. Gerard van Jaarsveld, the non-executive director and deputy chairperson of the board. Okay, that looks fine. However, as we have a CEO who is the chairperson, King 3 recommends that there should be a lead independent non-executive director. Dr. Gerard van Jaarsveld is not independent. Okay, they don't say he's independent. We can assume he is not independent. Okay? But he is the deputy chairperson of the board. Again, this is in contravention of King 3, which says that there should be a lead independent non-executive director. There are then 3 independent non-executive directors. They don't give us a lot of information about them at the moment. We'll see what they say further on. The thing you need to look at here, there are first 4 executive directors, second 4 non-executive directors. So there is not a majority of non-executive directors as required by King 3. Okay. Considering that the 3 of the 4 non-executive directors are independent, it looks like they do meet the recommendation of King 3 that the majority of non-executive directors are independent. If we have a look at the audit committee members, we have a Ms. Riki Muklato, who is the chairperson, a Mr. Ismail Mohammed, Ms. June Madibo, and Ms. Kate Middleton. The chairperson and the bottom 2 members of this audit committee are the 3 independent non-executive directors. However, Mr. Ismail Mohammed is not a director. At the moment, we don't know who he is. We'll have to see if there is more information later on in the scenario. But somebody who is not a director should not be a member of the audit committee. They're going to tell us that Ms. Middleton is a CASA, okay, and the sister-in-law of Mike Moller. We have a quick look back at the composition of our board of directors. We can see that Mike Moller is the CEO. Given that she is the sister-in-law of the CEO, she is in fact not independent, okay, which means that she should not be on the audit committee. However, she is a CASA. They haven't given us any information about the qualifications of the other 3 members. We need to consider whether or not those 3 have the required knowledge to serve on the audit committee. If we go back to Ms. Middleton, she advised the board that co-opted members of the Social and Ethics Committee who are not directors of SAGE will not be able to attend the company's general shareholders meeting. Okay? Guys, that is in contravention of Section 72 of the Companies Act. Please go and have a look at Section 72. The financial information at the bottom of this page. Before we go into financial information, the fact that Ms. Kate Middleton is not independent, it's right there, not independent, means that she should not, or means that when we look at the composition of the board of directors, the majority of the non-executive directors are not independent. Mr. Gerard or Dr. Gerard van Jaarsveld and Ms. Kate Middleton are not independent. Okay. If we have a look at the financial information, With financial information, given in a situation like this, we're really looking at the changes. What are the changes in that financial information and what does it show us? We had a look at there's a huge decrease of current assets and a huge increase in our current liabilities. Okay? That may indicate a going concern problem. Remember, going concern is a huge risk and it can also result in a Section 22 reckless trading issue. Sage is experiencing liquidity problems. Okay, we thought about it. There it is. There are going concern problems. Okay? And is reliant on large amounts of loan funding from its investors and bankers. Guys, you don't want to highlight too much because we need to be able to question, so we need to be able to come back and look for the very important points. So don't highlight too much. The liquidity problems are mainly due to the large capital amounts of close to 1 billion rand, which were paid out of the company's overdraft facility. It's more a business risk than an audit risk, but this company is financing long-term assets with short-term liability. It's a mismatch of funding there. Management has pointed out that the company is still in the growth phase. Management has no formal plan in place to decrease the losses other than to complete the new Darling wind farm. Feasibility studies have shown that the Klip, Heerwil and Darling wind farms will each make a profit over the 20 years of their lifespans. Wind farms generally only become profitable after 10 years of operations. Okay. As again, that's more business risk and strategy information. The capital expenditure. The Klip, Heerwil wind farm consists of 400 wind turbines across 182 square kilometers, which is currently running at full capacity. Each wind turbine has the capacity to generate 2.5 megawatts of electricity per year. Additional wind turbines have to be constructed to increase capacity. The Klip, Heerwil wind farm was completed at the end of December 2011 and was financed by means of a loan from UGE. The loan is subject to the following conditions. For the duration of the loan, the current ratio of Sage at each financial year end may not be less than 1:1. If we have a look at the financial information given to us on the previous page, you can clearly see that the current ratio will be drastically less than 1.1. Okay? Current liabilities exceed current assets. UGE has entered into a subordination agreement with Sage in respect of this. Subordination agreements. Guys, if you don't remember what a subordination agreement, please go and have a look it up. It is quite an important thing. B. The Darling wind farm. Since December 2011, Sage has been searching for a suitable site in the Western Cape to use as a wind farm. On the 3rd of April 2013, Sage purchased a 95 square kilometer farm in the Western Cape from the Darlington Family Trust for 150 million, despite it having a market value of only 120 million. This market value was determined by an independent valuer appointed by Sage. Okay. Guys, you always need to consider, why are they paying that premium? Let's have a look at this further information. The trustees of the Darlington Family Trust are Mr. Mike Moller. We recognize that name. Mr. Mike Moller, let's remember, is our CEO. And Ms. Simpiwe Low. The beneficiaries are Mr. Mike Moller, again our CEO, Mr. Mike Moller's wife, who is Ms. Zelda Moller, and Dr. Gerard van Jaarsveld. Okay. This is why he's not independent then. He is the father of Ms. Zelda Moller, so he is Mike Moller's father-in-law. Let's go back to our list of directors. We now know that Mr. Mike Moller, our CEO, is the is related to Miss Kate Middleton. He is the sister-in-law. She is the sister-in-law, and his father-in-law is Dr. Gert van Jaarsveld. This means that 3 of our 8 members of the board of directors are from one family, okay? Which means that they might cooperate with each other and they might override the decisions of the board of directors. Go back to the purchase of the land. The purchase of the farm was approved at a directors meeting held on the 28th of March 2013. Mr. Moller and Dr. van Jaarsveld did not vote on this transaction as they had disclosed their links with the Darlington Family Trust. Okay, so they did not vote, they had disclosed their links, it looks like, they have complied with Section 75 of the Companies Act, the director's interest in contracts, Section 75. To construct the wind farm, Sage has been importing all the turbines from a Chinese supplier. Okay guys, when we have importing any goods, we have forex transactions, we have complex accounting. They have contracted R&M Constructions, who is an unrelated third party, to undertake the necessary construction work on site. Again, construction work, always complex, the accounting for it, very complex. Construction on the Darling Wind Farm commenced on the 19th of April 2013, after approval was granted by the Department of Energy on the 10th of April 2013. Sage is currently undertaking research into the production of solar energy in South Africa on the Darling Wind Farm. The research commenced on 7th of May 2013 and management capitalized these costs as an intangible asset. Okay, research, intangible assets, we need to consider whether they meet the accounting requirements. According to the CFO, the following capital expenditures were incurred on the Darling Wind Farm during the 2013. We have the purchase of land at 150 million, construction of 50 of the planned 200 imported wind turbines, the cost and the construction costs coming together at 2,500 million. I think it's 2.5 billion rand. Less a government grant of 300 million that was received, and security fencing around the farm cost 148 million. Research costs amounted to 160 million rand. Then the third document we need to read through, an article published on the Times of Sunday, 1st of December 2013. Energy Watch International, an environmental organization, has said that the production delays at the Eskom Medupi coal-fired plants indicate that South Africa desperately needs to focus its energy production on renewable sources. Eskom announced last Monday that Medupi would not be productive in 2014 as planned and pushed back the operational date to 2018. A shortfall in electricity supply is anticipated due to this delay. This comes after municipalities across South Africa expressed their willingness to buy a minimum baseload of 3,000 megawatts per year from renewable energy source companies in South Africa at above market prices in order to cut out unreliable electricity supply from Eskom. This should encourage other market participants to enter the market, in the process eliminating the monopoly that Eskom has had in South Africa. All of this information so far, guys, relates more to the strategy of the company rather than auditing. It is time for the government and Eskom to rethink the entire electricity paradigm and begin the transition away from coal towards renewable energy and energy efficiency. This is the only sustainable path towards ensuring access to electricity for all South Africans, announced Greenpeace Africa in reaction to Eskom's announcement of the delays. Renewable energy production is growing rapidly around the world and will be the second biggest source of electricity after coal by 2016, according to a 5-year outlook published by the International Energy Agency. Internationally, renewable energy demand is expected to increase annually by 60% during the next 5 years. On a visit to South Africa on Tuesday, President Barack Obama outlined an agreement that will result in the United States of America investing some 300 billion rand in South Africa to be used exclusively for renewable energy research, development and production. In 2013, South Africa produced 8,472 megawatts of electricity from various sources, of which wind power was the smallest contributor. Electricity demand in South Africa will increase every year from 2014 to 2020. Large capital investment is required by market participants to stimulate growth in the renewable energy sources. The South African government indicated that South African Green Energy, that's our audit client SAGE, could potentially be in line for a significant portion of these funds because this firm has a great potential and is one of only a handful of companies in South Africa focusing on renewable energy sources. Okay. Guys, this last paragraph is really the only one we need to worry about from an auditing perspective, and all it tells us is that there is a mitigating factor to our going concern risks. Okay. So again, we just make a note in the margin that this is a going concern factor. Okay. Having had a look at the scenario, let's now have a look at the required. I'm only going to look at the auditing specific required section. You're welcome to do the other section in your own time. Okay. The required, which again you'll only get at the end of the 30 minutes of your reading time. Part B, discuss with reasons the impact of the information contained in Mr. Light's email on the likely quality of size audit of the 2013 financial statements of SAGE. Okay. So we're looking at quality, we're looking at quality control of that audit. Okay. In addition to the quality control, so our ISQC1, we're looking at ISO 220, we're looking at quality in terms of all of the ISOs, how have all of the ISOs been complied with, so ISO 220 is relevant. We're also looking at the CPC. Any threats to the independence of the firm will impact on the quality of that audit. Part C asks you to prepare a memorandum. Guys, please remember if they ask you to prepare a memorandum to put it into the right format. Okay. To the Audit Committee of SAGE, which you will describe any non-compliance and potential non-compliance by SAGE with King 3, okay, the King Report, which is still King 3, and the Companies Act. So we're looking for non-compliance with King 3 and the Companies Act. We saw quite a lot of that in the scenario. And then part D, for 34 marks, so the major part of this question is looking at substantive procedures that SAI should perform in respect of the capital expenditures incurred by SAGE in 2013 on the Darling Wind Farm. You should ignore audit procedures relating to depreciation or impairment, compliance with the Companies Act, and tax. Okay. Guys, if we go back quickly to the scenario, I'm having a look at just the capital expenditures here. Wrong one. So the capital expenditures here, we're looking at the land, and remember we're looking at 150,000. So we're looking at the revalued amount here. We're looking at the construction of the turbines, which is the cost of the turbines, and remember those are imported from China, so we're looking at the forex, we're looking at the translation, we're looking at all of those things, possibly goods in transit, and we're looking at construction costs. Remember, we're only looking at a portion, we're only looking at 50 of the 200, so we need to consider how do we know that 50 have been planned and imported, okay, and constructed. How do we know that that 50,000, or sorry, 500,000, or 500 million rather, relate to those 50? We need to look at government grants, okay, that 300,000 rand, the disclosure of that government grant, the amount, we need to consider that. The security fencing around the farm, okay, and research costs. Remember, we said that research costs were very complicated. we need to consider whether that 160,000 rand has been capitalized correctly. One of the most difficult questions to answer that I find students really have difficulty with is substantive procedures. So have a look at all of those different line items. Also remember your general substantive procedures. Okay. Guys, what I suggest you do now is answer this question. We've gone through the scenario, we've gone through the required. Take some time and answer it in an exam, under exam conditions. So sit by yourself and answer the question, then have a look at the solution. It is on the SAICA website. I will also upload it to RU Connected for you. Please go through that. If you have any questions, please do come and see me.